Now, many people are losing their jobs in New Zealand. It's a sad situation, and they're losing their jobs at a time where unemployment is increasing, competition for jobs is increasing, and New Zealanders need more access to the job market than ever. So this could make things more difficult for you as a work visa applicant, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about now. So if we consider the basic requirement for an essential skills work visa, that is that you must pass what is called the labor market test. Now, the labor market test is very simple in theory. If no New Zealand citizens or residents are available to do the job, then you can get an essential skills work visa. On the other hand, if New Zealand workers are available to do the job, or the employer has not really bothered to look for New Zealand workers, then you fail the labor market test, your application will be declined. So that is why it is called essential skills work visa, because it's only for people whose skills are essential to the country because no New Zealanders are available. Now, so that's the labor market test. It has always existed, nothing new. This has nothing to do with the COVID-19 crisis. Essential skills work visas have always had to pass the labor market test, show that no New Zealanders are available in order to get the visa. However, now we are seeing unemployment figures rise very fast. Many economists predict unemployment rates of 10%, even 20 or 30% in certain areas. And this is going to mean that Immigration New Zealand will expect employers to make extra efforts to employ New Zealanders, and it will be harder for migrants to get an essential skills work visa. So today I'm going to give you a few tips on how to pass the labor market test. So number one, before you submit the essential skills work visa application, you need to, you or specifically your employer needs to prepare an effective job advertisement. Now, this sounds simple, but it is not simple. First thing that you must have in the job advertisement is the requirements that any candidate must meet in order to apply for the job. It can be for experience, qualifications. What does the ideal candidate require in order to be eligible for the job? Now, it's important that the requirements in the job advertisement are not too low and not too high. Why is this? So if the requirements are very low, what that means is that the employer will be flooded with New Zealand job applicants. And for each single job applicant, we will have to prove that they were unsuitable or unavailable to do the job. It's going to make it very difficult to pass the labor market test. Anything more than 10, 15 job applicants, New Zealand citizen job applicants, makes the visa extremely difficult to get. So that's why you should not have the requirements too low in the ad. On the other hand, you don't want the requirements to be too high either, or irrelevant to the job. If so, then Immigration New Zealand will suspect that the employer is not genuinely interested in hiring New Zealand workers and is just trying to just recruit a migrant worker. So an example of a requirement that would be too high or irrelevant. Let's say there is a hairdressing job, and the hairdressing job advertisement says you must have 10 years experience and you must be fluent in Hindi. Now, is it necessary to have 10 years experience in order to cut hair? Obviously not. It's a relatively simple job compared to engineer, doctor, etc. Is it relevant to speak Hindi in order to cut hair? Again, it's not relevant. Therefore, if the job advertisement had requirements like this, the visa would almost certainly be declined. They would not pass the labor market test because the employer seems to be discouraging New Zealanders from applying for the job. So number one requirement for job advertisements, they must only require relevant requirements for the candidate, and they must not be too low and they must not be too high. A second thing you need in a good job advertisement is a job description. So that's just a list of the tasks that you need to undertake in order to perform the duties required by the job. So the job description, number one, must be truthful. It must describe the actual duties you perform on the job, but it must be worded in a way that is broadly similar to what is called ANSCO. Now, you might have heard of ANSCO. If you haven't, ANSCO is a database of occupations that is consulted by Immigration New Zealand in order to assess each and every work visa application. So you can find the ANSCO database online. Just ANZSCO, ANSCO, and look for your job there. You will find a job description listed under your job title. Now, in the job advertisements, the description should be similar to the one in ANSCO. Don't copy and paste, but it should be similar, while also, of course, truthfully describing the actual job that you do. If the job description matches ANSCO, the case officer will have a much easier time assessing the application. You have a higher chance of getting the visa. If there is no relationship to ANSCO, there's a possibility the case officer might get confused and even decline the visa. So that's the two big requirements for the job advertisement. You must have realistic requirements for candidates, and you must have a job description that describes the job but is broadly similar to the job title in ANSCO. Okay, so you can see it's not that easy to prepare a good job advertisement, so therefore you should probably consult an immigration advisor or a lawyer before the employer even publishes the ad. But once they have a good ad, they may publish it and put it online. Two popular websites are TradeMe and Seek. It has to be a major platform that is regularly visited by a lot of New Zealanders. So TradeMe and Seek are two very popular platforms to do this. The ad is published, and you have to keep it active for at least 2 weeks. Now, during this 2-week time, it's possible that some New Zealanders will apply for the position. If they do this, it's not a problem. It doesn't mean you automatically fail the labor market test just because New Zealanders have applied. However, if New Zealanders apply for the job position, it is critical that your employer keep very clear records of any job applications. And this includes emails sent by candidates for the job. It includes reports written after any job interviews. Remember, the employer must interview the candidate. They can't just ignore the applications. And this also includes any CVs of New Zealanders who applied for the job. And once you have all that, you must have a description for why each person was unsuitable for the position, unqualified, unsuitable, you could not train them, etc. And once you have all that, so you have a good job, a good advertisement, it's been published for 2 weeks. Now you may close the advertisement and you may submit a work visa application. Now, if you have done a good job at passing the labor market test, you will have a good chance of getting the essential skills work visa, even though we are in an economic crisis. So having a good, well-prepared visa application is critical to your staying gainfully employed in New Zealand and not running out of money. And that's why using professional help is extremely helpful and can be quite a life-changing decision, well worth the expense in the long run.